Welcome to this summary session of the 12th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with the invocation to the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge is preserved, transmitted from generations so as to reach us. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Puja Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share this understanding with you. Let's start with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So 12th Adhyaya, as you know, is the Bhakti Yoga, by which we can connect to the divine by bhakti, by devotion, by love, by respect, by reverence to the God, to the Almighty. And this is the best and the easiest way to connect to the Lord, to understand the Lord, to be one with the Lord. It is said that God's grace is on everyone, Samanya Krupa is on everyone, but there is something like special Krupa, Vishesh Krupa of God. And to get His special attention, we need to do something special. And this something special is Bhakti. This is the devotional worship to the Lord. In the 10th and the 11th Adhyaya, Bhagavan showed His Ishwaratva, His Vishwarupa. Before that, the Vibhuti Darshana. And then, now in the 12th Adhyaya, how we can connect to the Lord. And the last shloka of the 11th Adhyaya forms the root or the foundation of this 12th Adhyaya, the Bhakti Yoga, where Bhagavan gives 5 steps of a devotee's journey to attain the Lord. He says, Mat karma kruta, do everything, all your actions for me. Karma yoga, mat parama, be surrendered to me. Sharanagati, gnana parayana nishtha. Mat bhaktaha, be my devotee. Sangha varjitaha, and nirvaira sarvabhuteshu, means avoid the raga and the dvesha, avoid the attachments and the animosity for all the beings. And the detailed description is the 12th Adhyaya. So our Shastras mention the different ways, the sadhanas to attain the divine, the Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga. It is not that one is superior over the other. It is not that because we humans feel that Karma Yoga is better or Jnana Yoga is better. Somebody will say, no, Bhakti is the best way to connect to the Lord. But our Shastras have a very wide vision. They tell us that it is the Adhikaritva, the eligibility or suitability of the candidate, which determines what sadhana he uses. And each of these sadhanas are not exclusive to each other. They are all inclusive to each other. Means we can make use of different sadhanas, but we can take help of a pradhanya, predominant, a main sadhana as one. Say, for example, somebody who has a lot of vairagya from these worldly attachments, who has the capacity to give up, he has a tyaga, his mahatva buddhi in the worldly attachments is much less, then for them, the jnana yoga can be the predominant sadhana. For somebody who has a lot of desires in karma, in activities, in actions, wants to achieve a lot of things in this world, has no vairagya, for him karma yoga can be the best or the predominant sadhana. And somebody who is in between, does not have complete vairagya, does not have complete shamana of the desires, he still has desires, he or she, then for them bhakti yoga is the predominant sadhana. So bhakti essentially is more of a manasik karma, where we use the indriya, mana, and the buddhi, all the 3 sadhanas that we have to perform the sadhana. Whereas karma, on the other hand, uses more of sharira, the physical body, to do action activities. But in karma yoga also we have to use the mind. Attitudes are very important, more than the sharira, because it is ultimately the mind which guides us to perform the actions. And in devotion, bhakti also, along with the indriya mana, we have to use our body. Say, for example, when we do seva, puja, archana, so we have to use our, but predominantly sense organs are used in devotion, bhakti. Mind, emotions are the predominant, which we have to need to connect to the divine. And intellect also is important, because we have to take firm decisions for our path, where we want to choose the right path and where we want to go. So in Bhakti Yoga, all our actions, our relations, which needs to be detached from this world and attached to the Lord. And this is the way we can attach ourselves to the divine divinity. This leads to a lot of freedom, self-reliance, peace of mind, which we can experience and makes us fearless. And this requires a sadhana. It's a long, it's not a shortcut. There is no shortcut to this journey. We need to have continuous efforts on this path to attain our Shuddhi and finally attain divinity. So let us start with the first shloka of the 12th Adhyaya, where it starts with Arjuna's question. And the question is related to bhakti, because he has seen in the 10th and the 11th Adhyaya the Saguna Bhakti, and he has learned from Sri Krishna about the Nirguna Tattva, Brahma Tattva in the 2nd Adhyaya, where he was given the Atma Jnana, and then which was more in detail expressed in the 4th and the 5th Adhyaya. And the 6th Adhyaya, Lord talks about Dhyana Yoga to connect to the divine. He knows about the Nirguna Bhakti and he knows about the Saguna Bhakti. Nirguna, it is called Upasana, whereas Saguna is more called Bhakti. So the question is related to either of these two. Evam satata yukta me, those devotees who are constantly connected with you, says bhaktas tvam paripasate, those are involved in your devotion with bhakti bhava, those who are doing the saguna upasana. Ye chapyakshar avyaktam, avyakta means unmanifest, nirguna upasana. Out of these two, Arjuna asked, Tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Yoga vitta means one who is a real knower of the yoga, who is the best out of the Saguna and the Nirguna Upasana. This question Arjuna asked to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. When he answers, he says three things. He says, Maya Veshya Mano Yema, one who keeps their mind in me, Nitya Yukta Upasate, one who is constantly devoted to me, Shraddhaya Parayo Betaha, means who is filled with utmost faith when he does the devotion bhakti. That person, Tebe Yukta Tamamataha, that person according to Krishna is the most suitable yogi. He is Yukta Tama. He doesn't say Yoga Vitta, he says Yukta Tama. He is the Yukta, he is an integrated personality. In Bhagavan says Mataha. Mata means, in my opinion, he is the most suitable yogi. Bhagavana glorifies the Saguna Bhakti here because this is the Saguna Bhakti Adhyaya, and he says this is the safe and the suitable alternative. Similar to when he was asked the question in the 3rd Adhyaya, karma is better or Jnana is better, which one is the Pravrutti Marg or the Nivrutti Marg? He said that the Karma Yoga is a more safer and suitable alternative. Similarly here, he says Saguna Upasana is a better, safer and a suitable alternative. So, Mai Aveshya Manaha, when God says put your mind in me, what does it mean? And Guruji explains to us that it means that our goal is to forget our self-identity, our pride, our identification with ourselves, and the spiritual journey is to go more deep inside us while we continue to do our outside karma. So it is not that we have to stop doing our activities, our karma in this world. We continue to do our karma, but this is with attitude where God is in our mind all the time while we are in karma. Maya Aveshya Mano Yemam also means that we find some time to go deep within us, sit in silence for some time, contemplate on the God, think about who is the creator, how this world came into existence, and what is my real self. So these are the questions that we can ask ourselves. And putting our mind in the Lord, is it possible? Yes, it is definitely possible. Bhagavan says it is possible, and that's why I can do it. I must have a positive attitude that I will do it, I should do it, I must do it, and this is definitely possible. When Bhagavan says Nitya Yukta Upasate, he means constantly devoted to me. It means that God is our first priority, and our mind and devotion are both at one place. It is not that we are doing devotion, but our mind is wandering somewhere. And Nitya Yuktam also means constantly keeping on doing the same thing day in and out, again and again, every day, every moment. And this is the, what Bhagavan expects from us. Shraddhaya Parayo Petaha. Paraya Shraddha means unwavering faith, unflinching faith. And faith is the foundation of bhakti, devotion. Only if we have faith, we can do bhakti. And faith means faith in three things: scriptures, Shastra, which tells us the path, Guru, who also shows us what is given in the scriptures, and Bhagwan, who is the creator of the Shastras and the world itself, Bhagwan. So in all these three, we must have faith, and also we should have faith in our own self. Atma Shraddha is also very important because we have to follow this path. We have to walk on this path. And in the 3rd and the 4th shlokas, Bhagavan also talks about the Nirguna Tattva in the 3rd shloka and the Nirguna Tattva Guna, the 3 gunas that are needed for a sadhaka. when he wants to go on the Nirguna path. So he talks about the Nirguna Upasana. He says, he describes the Nirguna Tattva here in 8 different words. Ye tvaksharam anirdeshyam. Aksharam means indestructible or changeless, all-pervading tattva. Anirdeshyam means impossible to demonstrate or show by words or senses. Avyakta, because it is unmanifest, it is formless, very subtle, cannot be seen. Sarvatra gama, it is omnipresent, it is all-pervading, it is everywhere. Achintya, it is unimaginable. Our mind does not have the capacity to imagine this Nirguna Tattva. Kutastha achalam dhruvam, changeless, immovable, eternal. And this is how Bhagavan describes the Nirguna Tattva. And then he says, these are the 3 gunas or attributes for the Nirguna devotee. Sanyamdriya gramam. Sanyamya means control over all our Indriya grama. Indriya grama means samuha of our 10 Indriyas, the 5 Karmendriyas and the 5 Jnanendriyas. Indriya Sanyam is a very, very important part of Nirguna Upasana. Sarvatra Samabuddhayaha means being equipoised in the world, in all the objects, in all the persons, relationships. So that is the mind attribute of our mind, which is in Samatva, Samata, that is a guna of the mind. And third is Sarvabhuta Hite Rataha, means who is involved in the good or the welfare of all the beings. So that means that we don't hurt anyone, and that is ahimsa, non-violence, which is the guna of the Sharira. Through Sharira, we don't hurt anyone, or with our words or our mind, we don't hurt anyone. Te prapnuvanti mameva, they only can attain me, and they can become one with me with the Advaita Bhavana. So here Lord tells us that Nirguna Upasana, what are the attributes or what are the gunas of the Nirguna Upasana? Sanyamya Indriya Gramam, control over all our senses. Indriya Sanyama implies a balance, and this can only come with Vairagya, from the world. If we can detach ourselves from the world, and detaching does not mean that we have to reduce our, relationship with the world. It is only detaching means we understand the true nature of the world. Initially, it has to be enforced with Dhamma, but later with the repeated practice, Abhyasa, it becomes more natural, which is called Shama. And this understanding is about the nature of the world, the nature of the objects, the nature of the things, the nature of the persons, the nature of our relationships. Everything is temporary, it is all transient, nothing is permanent. And if I am dependent on all this, it makes me more paradhina, dependent, and always keeps me incomplete, because I need to want more and more, more and more, more and more. And that's why it keeps me apurna, does not give me that complete purnata satisfaction. And that's why with this understanding, if I detach myself, detach does not mean that, it's a right understanding with which I have a, very steady mind. It is a very swastha mana. It is a manosthiti. It is a yathartha, the real understanding of the world in the true spirit, in the right way. It's vastavikata of this world, samsara. If we understand all this, then there will be a sahaj vairagya, and with this we can decide what is our real goal, and in comparison to our worthy or real goals, the things that we are involved in every day, attachments, are all very, very petty, and that's why we don't give so much of mahatva buddhi to all these. Sarvatra Sambuddhaya means samata, equipoise, being in equipoise of the mind, kind of a balance, that we don't go ups and downs are not there, because this tattva that we need to understand, Nirguna tattva, is also very sukshma. It's very subtle. For this, we need a very quiet, very calm mind. And to make this mind quiet, we have to make it balanced. And this equipoise will only come when in all the dvandvas, in all the dualities of this world, we can remain samatva. And here, this is only possible if we avoid comparisons and competitions, by understanding that we are unique. There is no one like us in this universe. We have to find out our own uniqueness and understand that I don't need to prove anything to this world. And that's why these complexes of our egos, our ahankaras, we have to, try to shithil, nullify these as much as we can. And then the third guna that Bhagavan says is Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, ahimsa, involved in the good or welfare of all the beings, hope for the best of everyone, don't hurt anyone unknowingly, and that is ahimsa, non-violence, by mana, vachana and vani, or by all these three. So essentially, Saguna Bhakti, when we do Bhakti, finally it is the Jnana which will lead to moksha, whereas Nirguna Bhakti, as Bhagavan says, Jnana Yoga also requires the Jnana to moksha. And the crux or the conclusion or the summary of all this is that Saguna and Nirguna are not the exclusive path. They can be both inclusive. One can start with the one and go into the other. They are not mutually exclusive. One can use both this Saguna Upasana as well as Nirguna Upasana in our spiritual journey. And we can start with the Saguna Upasana, as Bhagavan says, it is a safer, suitable alternative. And then we can go to the Nirguna Upasana, which is more adhikatam, difficult. In the next shloka, Bhagavan is going to say that this is klesho adhikatarasthe sham, and this is more difficult path. The Nirguna path is a more difficult path. So in the fourth shloka, in the fifth one, Bhagavan says that the klesho adhikataraste sham, this path of the Nirguna Upasana, avyakta sakta chetasam, the devotion of the Nirguna Upasana is more difficult. It is more difficulties. It is adhika tara klesha. It is more difficult because avyakta hi gatir dukkham, the path to attain the unmanifest, which is very sukshma, very, very subtle. We cannot see it. And it is very more difficult, more miserable, gives more pain to us, more difficult path. Why? And he gives the reason also, deha vadvira avapyate, because we are all identified very strongly with our body-mind complex, and we understand that we are this body or this mind. And that's why with this strong understanding, this Sthula identification, we are not able to perceive the Sukshma Tattva, the subtle Tattva that is there. And that's why it is a more difficult path. And that's why Lord tells us what we need to do. Yetu sarvani karmani, mai sanyasya matparaha. Surrender all your actions unto me, take refuge into me. Ananyena eva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. With one point communion, contemplate on me, devote to me. And for these such devotees, Bhagavan says in the next shloka, Tesham aham samudharta, I deliver them from moksha. So let us understand what Bhagavan tries to say when he says sarvani karmani, mai sanyasya. How we can surrender all our actions to the Lord. Sarvani Karmani means that we do all our actions for Him, to please Him, with His orders, with His energies. This is the understanding that I must have. Whatever I am doing, it is with His energy that I am doing. And Sarvani Karmani also means all my personal, professional, social, family responsibilities, all my duties that I am doing. And during our work, we have to continue our karma, but we need to constantly think of the Lord and think and have the bhava that I am the instrument. It is the Lord who is doing all this through me. And when we achieve the results of the karma phala, we need to thank the Lord for whatever He has given us and accept it completely as His prasada. And essentially this means that we have to convert our karma into karma yoga. And essentially when Bhagavan says karma yoga, he also means the bhakti yoga, because with his vision, the wide vision, karma yoga and bhakti yoga are quite similar, because in karma yoga also there is an involvement of bhakti, because unless you have prasada buddhi, karma phala, you accept Bhagavan, instrument, nimitta matra bhava, all this is part of karma yoga, and this also is bhakti towards the Lord. And in bhakti yoga also you have to do some karma, you have to do some archana, puja, seva, all these, and that's why in a sense both are one and the same. Of course, what is predominant is determining what is, whether it is karma yoga or bhakti yoga, but essentially both are a mixture. Matparaha, when God says take refuge in me, surrender to me, sharanagati, this helps to release me of my doership pride or ego, which is the biggest obstacle in our journey. And there are many, many places for our ego. We may have ego for our knowledge, for our skill, for our wealth, for our family, for our name, our caste, our goodness, even for our, donations. We may have a lot of pride and ego. And if we accept God's wish as the supreme, and accepting God's wish always is definitely not easy, but if we can do this and accept His wish even before my wish, then this can make us taking surrender to the God as taking refuge in the Lord. Ananya eva yogena, one pointed commitment, means everything, our utmost priority is the Lord, and devotees see the world as the manifestation of the Lord. Karya karana sambandha, always when he sees the world, he thinks of the Lord. That is what the devotee does. Mam dhyayanta upasate, contemplate and devote to me in different forms. It could be in a Vishwarupa, Avatara, Bhagavan's cosmic form, Ashtamurti, or it could be one idol form of devotion, Ishtadeva Murti of the God, or it could be Upasana in the form of a japa, dhyana, name or chanting, worship, mantra, japa. So it could be in different ways, but Bhagavan says one is involved constantly in contemplation and my devotion. And for these kind of devotees, Maya Veshita Chetasam, Bhagavan says, for those whose mind is completely on to me, what does the Bhagavan give to the such devotees? What are the benefits of this kind of devotion? Bhagavan says, Tesham aham samuddharta. I deliver them, I free them from this mrityu sansara sagarat, this ocean of life and death. Nachirat partha, instantly, very soon, does not take time. Bhagavan is very, very Krupalu. He gives more than 1,000 times than what devotees does for him. So Tesham aham samuddharta, what does it mean? For the people who are intensely devotional to the Lord with commitment, satata yukta, ananya naiva yogena, mam dhyayanta upasate, all these what Bhagavan says, the best gift, the most beneficial, the highest gift, kalyanakari, hitakari, the highest benefit for the Manushya Avatara. Bhagavan says, Tesham aham samuddharta, I deliver them from where? Mrityu sansara sagara, this ocean which is like ocean of life and death, where we cannot swim across this ocean by our own self. We need help of a guru, we need help of Bhagavana to rescue us from this cycle, from this helplessness, from this ocean which sometimes bothers us by lots of ups and downs that comes in this ocean. Samuddharta, we need to understand how Bhagavan does Samuddharta, means uplifting us or lifting us for our betterment. Bhagavan, does he do it by his grace, by his magical powers? Our Shastras tell us that it is by knowledge alone that Bhagavan gives us this freedom. And Bhagavan himself has said in the 11th Adhyaya, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, to such devotees I give them Buddhi Yoga, with which they attain me, Prapnuvanti, Mameva Prapnuvanti. And he says, and in the 10th Adhyaya, he says, Gnana Deepena Bhaswata, he ignites knowledge in the minds of the devotees. And Gita is the crux of Upanishads, and there is very similarity of the message that is there, because even in Upanishads tell us that it's only by Gnana, Gnanata Kevalam, moksha. There is no other way to moksha but by Gnana. And here also Bhagavan, we have to understand that when Bhagavan says Tesham aham samuddharta, he uplifts them by igniting the knowledge in their path, in their mind. So Bhakti, the link is Bhakti, Gnana, and then moksha. That is a link. Bhakti directly does not lead to moksha, but the climax, ultimate climax of Bhakti is Aikya, is oneness with the Lord, attainment of the Lord, and that itself causes moksha. Most of the utmost devotees like Mirabai, Narsi Mehta, and all Ramanujacharya ji, Madhavacharya ji, all the Bhakti Sampradaya gurus, they at the climax of their Bhakti had this feeling of oneness with the Lord in their own words, in their own poems. We can see this Aikya Bhava, Narsi Mehta, Mirabai, the Surdas, all such devotees ultimately had become one with the Lord and had moksha. In the next few shlokas, Lord tells us the sadhana, the paddhati, the steps of the journey of our upasana or bhakti sadhana. And these are some important shlokas where Bhagavan says, Mayyeva mana adatsva, give me your mind, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, give me your place of intellect unto me, Nivasishyasi Mayyeva, you shall live in me, you shall reside in me only, Ata urdhvam na sanshaya, means there is no doubt about what I am saying. So let us understand what God is trying to tell us when he says, Mayyeva mana adatsva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, because mind and buddhi are our major sadhana which governs our life. But unfortunately, both of them are in conflict, constant conflict, competition all the time. Right from the time that we wake up in the morning, the mind tells us that, okay, let me sleep for some time. Buddhi says, no, there are some important work. You have to get up, wake up. And that's why this gap between our mind and intellect determines our personality. The lesser this gap, the more the mind and the intellect work together, the more matured we are. And this is a journey where we have to reduce this gap, lessen the gap as much as we can. And if we can become them one, mind and intellect act like one, then that Bhagavan says is a yukta, an integrated personality whose body, mind and intellect are work harmoniously with each other. And Bhagavan tells us to become yukta in many parts of Gita Ji, that we need to develop this kind of personality. So, Mayi eva mana adatsva, put your mind only in me, shows the commitment or the priority or the goal. But Bhagavan tells us, and mind is always full of desires, emotions, thoughts. We always want that we want something in the worldly realms. But Bhagavan tells us that all these, if we relate to the Lord, and this is what is devotion, joining with him with faith and having his name all the time on our lips, our mind, while we are doing our karma, our activities. Mayi buddhim niveshaya, put your intellect in me, means that do your work in the best possible way, being the instrument, as an instrument, being nimitta matra bhava, Buddhi also is a seat of our thinking ability to take decisions. So we must think of our goals, determine, resolve firmly our goals, the means to achieve these goals, to see where I am, what are my next steps, how do I go to on this journey. To think more time about planning my life, the obstacles, balancing my social and other life, and how do I do my activity, my actions, my karma with the right attitude, and to see His grace in all the situations of life. So this is the job of the buddhi, and that is what Bhagavan means by saying buddhi, mai buddhim niveshaya. So mayeva manadat, so mai buddhim niveshaya essentially means that both our mind and intellect, which is our essential identity for us, we have to lose this identity and give it to the Lord. But this does not mean that we lose something, because ultimately we are merging with the Lord's identity, and then we can remain in this eternal bliss, because Lord's identity is the Param Ananda. And the two biggest obstacles on our path to this Param Ananda is our attachment, mamatva, and our ego of ahankara. So Bhagavan wants to transfer both of these obstacles to from the world to the Lord, so that we can remain free, and we can get the best gift that Lord wants to give us. And what is the phala we will get? Nivasishyasi mayeva, you shall stay in me, Bhagavan says. But actually, Lord is the final destination for all of us. But the only difference is that we don't know this. But Guruji says that ajnana, ignorance, is the one where I feel limited to this limited jiva, the bonded jiva. Whereas with the jnana, we know that we are unlimited, we are free, we are Brahma. And ata urdhvam na sanchaya, Bhagavan says there is no doubt about it. Of course, when Bhagavan says there is question, there is no doubt about it. But he needs to tell us, because our human mind is such. Guruji says that we have a nature, our nature is to doubt on everything that we see. And that's why Bhagavan has to say that there is no doubt about it. This is how we can become one with the Lord. So we need to have that faith in the Lord. In the next shloka, Arjuna may have asked, is there any easier solution, Bhagavan, when you say put your mind and intellect both? So Bhagavan says, Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram. If you are not able to control your mind and steadying your mind onto me, he gives the second option. He says, Abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. With Abhyasa yoga, with repeated study, with repeated practice, Arjuna, try to desire to attain me, O Arjuna. So Abhyasa Yoga essentially means putting our mind, intellect into the Lord, surrender. Constantly we need to practice this by Abhyasa, by repeated practice. Whenever our mind goes out into the world, then we have to pull it back. As in the 6th Adhyaya also, Bhagavan has said this, and hold it back and bring it back to the Lord. When we sit in meditation also, this happens. Our mind, our thoughts, it goes out into the world. We have to try to get it back into the Lord. And this kind of practice can also be done by Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold practice of Yama, Niyama, Asana and others. So essentially, this is what Bhagavan wants us to do. And then Arjuna may have asked, is there any third option? If I cannot do this Abhyasa Yoga, it also looks quite difficult. Bhagavan says, Abhyasa ebhya asamarthosi. If you are even not capable of repeated study, then he gives him the third option, Matkarma paramo bhava. Do all your actions, perform all your actions for me. Madartham api karmani. Do all your actions for me. Siddhima kurvan siddhima bhapsasi. You shall achieve all your goals. Matkarma parama bhava means performing all our actions for the Lord. Essentially means changing all our actions, karma, into karma yoga. Because karma yoga is essentially serving the Lord. Instead of our selfish actions, we should do it selfless actions for the Lord. And whenever we do our karma, we remember the Lord. So that includes bhakti, and see all the energies and the grace of the Lord in all our actions, in all our karma. And this will help us to purify our own self, our own inner mind, our antakarana shuddhi. And the fourth alternative, Arjun asks, Bhagavan gives him the fourth alternative, Athaita dapya saktosi. If you are even not capable of doing this either, for my attainment, for my surrender, kartum madhyogamashritah, then he gives him, says, Sarva karma phalatyaga. Sarva karma phalatyaga means renounce all the fruits of action. Yata tatah kuru yatatmavan. Yatatmavan means control your mind, O Kuru Shrestha. Sarva karma phalatyaga means renouncing all the fruits of actions. And we need to understand this. How is it possible to renounce all the fruits of actions? We may say that, yes, we do have desires, only those lead us to actions. Yes, it is very natural to have desires, before we do into action. But we should understand that we should not have invalid insistence or obstinacy for the results to be achieved, and that is what we have to leave. So karma action is definitely my choice, it is my right, it is my department which is under my control. But I must understand that karma phala, the results of the actions, is not my choice, it is not my right, it is not under my control. And this clear distinction I need to understand, that I need to do actions and he is the giver of the fruits. Whatever he gives me, I have to accept it gracefully as prasada buddhi, without asking questions, without complaining, and by a faith in the giver of the fruits of the action, by the laws that he has created, the law of karma, karma phala, by which we get whatever we deserve actually, rather than what we desire. And then Bhagavana tells Arjuna, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasat. The knowledge is better than abhyas, repeated practice. And then in the next he says, Jnana dhyanam vishishyate. Meditation is better than knowledge. Dhyanat karma phala tyaga. Renunciation of the fruits of action is better than meditation. Why? He says, Tyagat shantir anantaram. Because giving up, tyaga, leads to lasting peace, long-lasting happiness and peace. And Bhagavana is trying to tell us about the Saguna Bhakti Marga here, because the artha of this shloka has to be made in the right perspective. This is the Bhakti Adhyaya going on. In Saguna Bhakti Adhyaya, the dhyana is a pradhana sadhana, because when we do dhyana, it has to be done with understanding. So knowledge, gnana here does not mean the Atma Gnana, it means understanding of the Swarupa of the Lord. Whereas in Nirguna Marga, the formless divine upasana, Gnana is the pradhana sadhana, self-knowledge, Atma Gnana is the main goal. And all other sadhanas, the karma, upasana, are all sahakari or supportive sadhanas. And these are all dependent on the suitability or adhikaritva of the individual seeker. So essentially, Bhagavan has already said that the Nirguna Marga is adhiktara klesha, more difficult, because it is nivrutti pradhan, where the sukshma tattva, whereas Saguna Bhakti Marga is adhika klesha. It is also not easy. Relatively, it is less difficult than the Nirguna Marg, but it is also not easy, and this is more of a pravrutti pradhana marg. So let us summarize what Lord has told us so far. He says, Mayyeva mana adatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya. Put your mind and intellect in me. If there is athaita dapya saktoshi, if it is not possible, then abhyasa yogena tato. Then do repeated practice abhyasa. Even if this is not possible, matkarma paramo bhava. Do all your actions for me, Ishwararpana, bhavna, karma, with all the Ishwar arpana. And if that is also not possible, then karma phala tyagam, renouncing the fruits of action, karma phala tyaga. And then Bhagavana tells us in the next shloka that karma phala tyaga, though it looks like the least of all the options, but it is the best of all, because it says after renunciation there is tyaga shantir anantaram, there is instant or lasting peace, and all the other supportive sadhana can only be practiced after renunciation of the desires of the fruit of action, because we need a peaceful mind to do all the sadhana, and that's why this peace can only come with the karma phala tyaga. In the next 7 to 8 shlokas, Bhagavan describes the attributes of the wise devotee, the Gnani Bhakta Lakshana. About 33 attributes are described, which are very beautiful. For a devotee, they are very beautiful, because when he attains the Atma Gnana, becomes a wise, what are his natural attributes or gunas has been described. For the enlightened wise, these attributes come very sahaj, very naturally. But for the seeker, these are to be learnt, and these have to be practiced with a lot of efforts, and that's why they serve as ideals, as lampposts for introspection in the journey of the seeker. Where am I? Where do I have to reach? And for each of these attributes can be very beautiful for our introspection, for our daily introspection. So let us start with the first attribute. Bhagavan says, Adveshta sarva bhutanam. No dislike or hatred, dvesha, for any being. Maitra, one who befriends one and all. These are the lakshana, gunas of the Gnani Bhakta. Karuna evacha, who is compassionate towards all the beings. Nirmama, who is unattached in all the actions, in all relations. Nirahankaraha, one who does not have pride or ego for one's own self. Samadukha sukha, who is equipoised in pain and pleasure. Shami, one who is forgiving, forgives one and all, even those who cause him pain. So let us understand Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam, no dislike for all the beings. How can it be possible? once we dislike, once we respect and love all the beings, we can develop a dvesha towards them. And this is only possible by letting go of all my jida and duragraha, that is my invalid insistence, my stubborn attitude about my karma phala, that this is what I should achieve, my agraha, duragraha, my firm afflictions for the other persons. And we should try and see the destructive, ever-changing, transient nature of this world. See this world as a big drama that is happening. I'm playing my role in each and every roles that I'm playing. And finally, if I can see the divinity, the Lord in all the beings, then definitely there will not be any dvesha bhav towards all these bhuta. Maitra befriends one and all. Gnani Bhakta is like one who is friend for everyone, guides, helps, supports, inspires, and protects all those who are in need, who go to them. Karuna, and this Maitra Bhava is also filled with compassion, because when they see the pain in others, they also feel the others' pain. And not only they see the others' pain, but they also want to relieve this pain, relieve them of the pain, and that's why they help them out of this pain. Nirmama, attachment, remaining unattached to all actions, all relations, because when we have Maitri or Karuna, it is very natural that we may develop attachments if we are not careful, if we are not aware. And that's why Bhagavan says, perform all your activities, be helpful, be Karunamaya, be compassionate, but do not get attached to all the relations, living objects. And love and attachment is very natural to humans, because we feel whenever we get something, we feel this is mine. It is very easy to develop, but very difficult to leave. But it does happen slowly with our awareness. We should try and understand and know what are our limits, avoid crossing our limits. And this is only possible with a lot of awareness. We sometimes don't think of the other side of the love. The attachments, we only see the one side of the attachments, which gives us the instant, feeling of happiness. That is what we see, but we don't see the long-term pain that it can cause to us. And if we try to see this Pratipaksha Bhavana, the other side of the attachments, the longer term vision, the wider vision, then we understand that these too much of attachments are not good for us. They bind us to this world, does not help us to enjoy our own self, to learn, to know, explore our own self. Nirahankara, no pride for our own oneself. And our ego, is the root of all the attachments that we have, mamata, in the world. And there is a subtle difference between self-respect and ego. Self-respect is good. Yes, we would like to have that self-respect, but having too much of feeling of too much of importance for our own self, maybe the higher complex or the lower complex, lower self being complexes, this pride, this doership, this ego is something that can be bothersome to us. And devotees will try to merge their own identity with the Lord, and the ego of the wise is burned in the flames of knowledge, gnana. And that's why I must try, as a seeker, I must try to become like an instrument, thinking that he's the doer, I'm the instrument, and everything he's doing through me. So when I am ignorant, I feel that I am something, I have a lot of powers, I can do this. But then when I become a bhakta, I know that it is his grace that is helping me, his energy, his grace that is helping me to do. I'm nothing, I'm just an instrument. And then when I achieve that gnana of the aikya, the oneness with the Lord, I understand that I am everything with the Lord, one with the Lord. It is not that he is doing or I am doing, everything is just one. And that is the feeling that we can develop. So samadukha sukha, equipoised in pain and pleasure. Samatva, Bhagavan has described this guna many times earlier also, right from the second adhyaya. And only a balanced mind can acquire self-knowledge, which is very sukshma. And the goal of spiritual journey is to attain this equanimity of the mind, the mana samatva of the mind. And everything is relative, because once sukha is other dukha. With this understanding, the transient nature of the objects, this world, with all these I can remain equipoised in pain and pleasure. Shami means who forgives one and all. And this is only possible when we accept all the beings, forgive people by thinking that I may have done the same thing if I would have been in that place. And this forgiveness is a kind of a strength. It is not a weakness that, okay, let me forgive him. It is comes out of an understanding that, my peace of mind is more important than getting affected by these small little things. And with this, I forgive the other person. That is what God expects from us. Satatam santushta, satatam yogi. Satatam santushta means one who is always satisfied. Satatam yogi means one who is constantly connected. Yatatma means one who has a self-control. Dradhanishchaya, firm resolution. Mayyarpita mano buddhi, whose mind and intellect are surrendered. Bhagavan says, Yo mad bhakta same priyaha. This type of my devotee is very dear to me. So in the next 4 or 5 shlokas, Bhagavan is telling us, he is going to repeat this mad bhakta same priyaha, which kind of devotee is priya to the Lord. Santata santushta, one who is always satisfied. So at some point we have to remain satisfied. Satisfied does not mean that we become lazy, we don't know to follow our call of duty, but it means that whenever we have desires, we want to do some activities, actions, we need to ask ourselves, use some samarthari, viveka, vichara. Is it necessary? Is it need-based? Is it greed-based? Will it really be useful to me? Is it worth the price that I am going to pay? And with this, if I decide to balance myself and become satisfied, this really brings me true happiness and peace of mind. Scriptures and satsanga give us this new understanding, the drashti, the vision, a different set of vision, understanding that I have to do my karma to the best of my abilities. Here is not the place where I have to be satisfied, but it is when the fruits of the action, the karma phala, I achieve or I get this karma phala, I have to demonstrate satisfaction, and that is where I have to give this satisfaction. Satatam yogi means constantly connected, and in devotion we have to be connected to the Lord with our goals for a sadhaka, in our sadhana with the tattva. Everything else becomes material, and Lord and God becomes the first priority for us. And a satisfied person only can become a yogi, and only a yogi can be a satisfied soul. And this is only possible for people who have yatatma. Yatatma means yata atma, who has self-control. Now atma word normally means soul. Atma is consciousness. But here Atma is used for our body-mind complex, because an ignorant person understands that I am this body-mind complex, and that's why he understands falsely that I am this Atma. And that's why Atma word in our Shastra is also used for this body-mind, the Jiva, or the body-mind complex. And this also means Yatatma means control over our Indriya and our Mana, our self-control. Dhrada Nishchayaha means with a firm resolution. No work, even in the worldly realms, are possible successful without firm decisions. And firm decisions, rituals are very important for our spiritual journey. Saints and renunciates are firmly established in decision. They have some niyama, vrata, which they very regularly follow. Similarly, we also need to have firm resolutions in our goals, the commitment towards goal, and the firmness with which we pursue these goals. We also need to have firm resolution in the ways and means with which we can fulfill these goals, and these decisions must be taken. We must follow these rules very firmly. But Guruji stresses again and again that we should not become rigid about our rules. There may be situations in our life where we have to become flexible. Sometimes we may have to give up our rule, but as soon as those situations pass off, we can again start and on those rules firmly. Mayyarpita mano buddhihi, surrender our mind and intellect, let go of our attachments, mamakara and ahankara, and this surrender is to the feet of the Lord. And Bhagavan says that yomat bhakta, such a kind of devotee is very dear to me. Bhagavan says, I love such a devotee of mine, and that's why we all want ourselves to get into that wish list of the Lord, in his list of who he loves the most. The next shloka again talks about the samatva bhavana. Yasman no dvijate lokaha, one who does not disturb others, and loka no dvijate chayaha, one who is not disturbed by others. Harsha marsha bhayo dvegaihi, one who is free from elation, intolerance, fears and anxieties. That bhakta same priyaha, that devotee is priya to me. So yasman no dvijate loko, one who does not disturb others. Because the wise people, the gnanis, are very peaceful. They provide peace to other people who come to him, because they are not in competition with anyone, because they have achieved whatever they wanted to achieve. They feel completeness from within, they are purna, and that's why they can also listen without judgment or prejudice to others. And the wise also, lokan no dvijate chayaha, they are not disturbed by others because they don't have any desires or expectations. They don't need to please anyone. They're very fearless. They don't have fear for the disease, death, fame, disrespect, society, all these fears that we all have normal average human beings have. The Gnanis or wise people don't have this. Harsha. So this Dvega Muktaha, one who is free from these emotions, this Udvega, the waves of these kind of Harsha, elation, happiness, saturated, they are not saturated with happiness. Amarsha. Amarsha means jealousy, intolerance, bhaya, all kinds of fears. Sachame Bhakta is very dear to me, Bhagavan says. And then he says, Anapeksha, one who is devoid of expectations. Shuchi Daksha, one who is pure, auspicious, and skillful. Udasina, one who does not take sides, is dispassionate. Gatavyatha, one whose anguish is destroyed. Sarva Arambha Parityagi, one who has given up selfish actions. Yomat Bhakta Samepriya, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Anapeksha, devoid of expectations. When Bhagavan says, we all know that expectations is the root of all the pain and miseries. And to become happy, we need to reduce these expectations. The wise have understood this and they are devoid of all expectation. They do have desires, but they differentiate between simple desires and apeksha, expectations from other people. And our expectations assume proportions of invalid insistence like a jid and obstinacy or duragara. And this kind of the things that are the bothersome to us. Simple desires are not bothersome to us. And when Bhagavan says anapeksha, it does not mean that we become careless, but it means that we become carefree. We take care of every little thing and we become, carefree. So basic needs are okay, but we should not become very fuzzy, choosy in a lot of our day-to-day activities. And we should try and adjust whatever is available, except all the situations that are available to us. Shuchihi. Shuchihi, the simple word understanding is cleanliness, but Shastriya meaning is pavitrata, auspiciousness. And this can be inner Shuddhi, the inner ones. All the wise enlightened people are clean in their mind, they have clean thoughts, they have clean actions. But outer Shuddhi is generally restricted to Acharya Koti, the Avduta Koti, wise or enlightened people may not be Shuddha from outside. They may be wearing dirty clothes because they are not aware, they are not, identified by their body, mind, so they may not keep it very clean. But these are the people who may not have outer Shuddhi, but still the inner Shuddhi is what it means. Shuchi, it means pavitrata or piousness. Daksha. Dakshata means skillfulness, cleverness in decision making, understanding the true meaning of words that are described in the scriptures, ability to make the right decisions in the given situation. So it's essentially Dakshata is our inner attitude. It's not the outer skill, but the ability to live a disciplined lifestyle, to make progress on our journey, to overcome the obstacles that come on our path, to handle our emotions, to keep our pride or ego at bay, and always to be aware is where we need to be very skillful and daksha. And there are different ways of becoming skillful daksha: by observing disciplines, rules, by doing service or seva, by observing other people, how they take their decisions, to start small, not neglecting small issues, and to have associate with skillful people, and to be very keen, tatpara, and to do regular practice or abhyasa. Udasina. Udasina means not taking different sides. Ud asina, to rise above, to see from a different perspective, from a bird's eye view. Ud also means Brahma, also means equanimity, sameness, also means there is no discrimination. So this steadfastness does not take any sides, having no prejudice for either side, does not get perturbed by other less skillful person, a daksha person. But if others are not daksha, then we don't become very upset and we don't expect too much from others. Gatavyatha, whose anguish is destroyed. Vyatha means inner pain, deep distress or anguish. And wise are fearless, they understand the true nature of the world, and there is a deep acceptance of all the situations, and that's why they are not agitated. And they are same in the gain and the loss, they do not get affected. The devotee has to do it, or the seeker has to understand the nature of this life, which is ups and downs, accept it, do not give too much of importance to the world, and that is how we can keep our mind at peace in any given situation. Sarva Arambha Parityagi means one who has given up all the desires for self-fulfillment, essentially means that we give up all our self-centered actions and do best of selfless actions. The wise, they do actions for the benefit of others, which are selfless, nishkam karma, without any pride or ego or ahankara. And Bhagavan says repeatedly, such a devotee of mine is dear to me, because he says God is displaying his love for the devotees and is inspiring in the seekers that we should try to attain this kind of qualities. The next shloka also Bhagavan says that Samatva, how he loves his devotees, Yona Yashati na Dveshti, one who is not very much elated, neither who is hostile, Dvesh, nothing na kare, na Shochati na Kankshati, one who does not grieve, does not have too much of desires, Shubha Ashubha Parityagi, one who is given up both auspicious and unauspicious, Bhakti Manya Samepriya, such a devotee is very dear to me, one who does not get very much elated or does not grieve, does not have too much of desires. Wise person is steadfast in the ups and downs of life. They do not feel too much of pain. Even if they have pain, they overcome this very easily. They have a kind of a childlike innocence, and small things make them very happy. But the seeker has to learn these efforts to achieve this maturity of mind, and only this understanding in the seeker will make them mature, will make them a different behavior and will change their personality. Shubha Shubha Parityagi, no difference between auspicious and the unauspicious, because when we connect to the Almighty, everything looks auspicious, and the seeker has to go from this Bheda Buddhi to Abheda Buddhi. Bhagavana says that such a devotee who worships me with devotion selflessly is very dear to me. In the next shloka also, Bhagavan talks about the same Samatva, and he says, Sama Shatrau cha mitrecha, one who is same towards a friend and an enemy, Tatha Manapa Manayo, one who remains equipoised in honor and disgrace, Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkheshu, remains same in the pairs of opposites, all the dualities like cold, heat, pleasure, pain, Sama Sangha Varjitaha, one who is free from all the attachments. Bhagavan says that who takes care of all these dualities. We do our best to avoid the dualities, but if they are not, then we have to accept them, develop an endurance for these dualities. Sangha Varjita, we have already seen Nirmamaha, how we can devoid of our attachments, our biggest obstacle and difficult to understand, but we have to overcome this ultimately. The next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the same Samatva Bhavana, Tulya Ninda Stuti, one who is equal in censure and praise, Mauni, one who is disciplined in speech, who spends more time in silence, has a peace of mind, Santushto Yena Kena Chita, who is satisfied by whatever he has obtained, Satata Santushtaha, he is already said before, Aniketaha, one who has no place to call his own home, does not have attachment to his home, Stiramatihi, one whose knowledge is very firm, Stira Buddhihi, Sadhana Sadhya Viveka, Bhakti Manyam Samepriyaha, one who has devotion is beloved to me. And the final shloka, Bhagavan tells, Yetu Dharmyat Mrutabidam Amrutam Yathoktam Paripasate, one who follows these values, this Sadguna Sampatti, keeping in mind the Dharma, because all these are Dharmyam, means they all lead to the Dharma, they are all Amrutam, they all lead us to immortality, because this causes a Shuddhi of our mind and can lead us to the Atmajnana. Yathoktam Paripasate, as has been told, one upholds these values, Shraddha Dhana Matparama, with faith, for whom I am the goal, Bhaktate Ativa Me Priyaha, that those devotees are exceedingly beloved to me. Everyone wants them to be loved by the Lord, and that's why we should try to imbibe these values in our life. To summarize the steps of the spiritual journey that Bhagavan has described in the 12th Adhyaya for the Sattva Guni Upasaraka, who is involved in the Mansik or the Saguna Upasana. Initially, the Nirguna Upasana described the formless devotion, which is also called the Arupa Upasana. And then Bhagavan describes the cosmic form Vishwarupa Upasana, the Anek Rupa Upasana. And then Abhyasa Yoga, Ek Rupa Upasana, the Murti Swarupa. For the Rajoguni people who are involved in Karma Yoga, who are involved in Sharirik or physical activity, Karma Yoga, Ishwararpana, Bhavana Karma Yoga, or Karma Phala, Tyaga, which is also part of Karma Yoga with understanding as Prasada Buddhi. So essentially, Bhagavan has shown this Sadguna Sampatti, which essentially means we have to imbibe this in our day-to-day life, and that is the work of change management, having small little goals, taking one step at a time. Guruji tells us how we can do this. Slowly and steadily, we keep pushing our limits, pursue our goals with a positive attitude, keep trying. Even if we falter, again stand up, keep trying, make changes that changes our life for better. Keep doing it, even if it creates some pain, miseries in our life, because all change happens very slowly, Shanaihi Uparamed, and it's not easy to change our old habits. But Bhagavan has said that it is definitely possible to adopt these practices and needs repeated practice, abhyasa, to make all this possible. With this, we come to the end of this Adhyaya. Om Tat Sata Iti Shri Mad Bhagavad Gita Su उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः। सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज, अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः। ॐ गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा, गुरु साक्षात् परः ब्रह्म, तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।